All right, folks, we got him. We got him. We got the members of. You get to see them now in the most friendliest way ever. This is probably the friendliest moment you'll ever see them. These are two of the founders of Black Mass. We have the Chainsaw Queen herself, and then we have Paul Stephen Edwards. Oh my God. That's one thing that really scared me the most was when I found out that a professional wrestler was involved in an immersive theater. Now, did you start, how did that, like, we could just jump right into that. How did that come to be? How did was the wrestling first and then the immersive, or how did it go?
I actually started doing haunts when I was in high school, and then I started doing my first corporate haunt for Frightmare on Market Street in San Diego, and then I started working for 1031 Productions at Hayride, LA Hayride, Great Horror Campout. Then from there, started working with Heretic for several years, and then founded Black Mass. And then while starting Black Mass, in the middle of that, I only recently started pro wrestling. So, okay. Yeah, a recent development.
There we go.
A lot of the haunting stuff that I did in my background actually helped me become a wrestler, just because I get to be a big, creepy, scary monster.
I know, yeah. Your Instagram is crazy. Everyone follow her on there. Links in the description, all that good stuff. And then Paul Stephen Edwards, we all know you've worked with Heretic. You were on actually a friend of mine's podcast, Mike Santana's 2S Horror Quarters.
Yes, yeah, I love Mike. Mike, I helped Mike make his first feature, Gray.
Mm-hmm. It was a really good episode right there. You do kind of talk a little bit about your experience with Heretic, I believe, in that episode. Any other thing that you would like to share? Like, how did you get started into immersive theater?
Oh, I actually started through cinematography. Mm-hmm. I had made a short that was accepted into the film program at Scare LA. I think it was back in 2014 or something like that. And while I was there, Adrian Marcato was there doing a little pop-up demo of Heretic. And I did the demo, and I was so intrigued that I really wanted to do a show. And I was nearly got to do one of them, and then I did Midnight Killer, the first Midnight Killer show, which I wrote up for LAHorror.com, Hunter Johnson's website. And after that, it just sort of went crazy from there. Adrian brought me in to be a ringer in a show called, what was the...
I don't remember the show.
Alex question. It was the one that was here. Yeah. It was sort of an escape room type. It began sort of like an escape room, but then quickly sort of went off the Suffer. That was it. Thank you. There you go. And I was a ringer there. I was playing myself, and I was whisked away. The idea was sort of was an escape room with consequences, where if you got something wrong, bad things happen to you. And so I was the person to whom bad things happened at that show. And then after that, he brought me on to do some more things, and that's where my immersive love was born.
There we go. That must have been pretty exciting to work with Heretic and everything. Did you also take part in I've been hearing a lot of crazy stuff about them. I heard that there was like a one that had to do with marijuana and stuff like that. They would give the guest marijuana. I don't know. Did you have any part in that or no?
Was that I
think it was called Sleep or something like that.
No, I was not a part of Sleep.
I'll never forget the advertisement, because I think I met Adrian at Spook Show. He just comes up, "Hey, you smoke weed?" I'm like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Do you like haunted houses?" I was like, "Yeah." He's like, "Come sign up." I was like, "Nah, it's not a good mix." No, man. A really cool guy though. So let's get into what you guys have put together yourself. Was Intimacy. It was an intimate show. It was because it was just like you put in your description, an actor and the guest, and then a crew member, and that was it. And it was by far like the best thing that I've ever experienced. I think there's just the unknown was really scary, which is something that you guys always like to throw out there. You really don't know what's going to go on when it comes to you guys, as in Black Mass. You know, you guys really know how to keep the suspense build up. And with doing this, you guys did an amazing job with that. How did this idea come to be, though? How did you come up with just having this intimacy?
It's funny. We joked that a lot of our ideas come from road trips. And so like we're just driving on the road. And I think that just allows us to be in a contained place where we can just talk about shows and things and whatever. So we were just taking a drive, trying to just get out of the house since we're all in lockdown and can't go anywhere, can't do anything. So like, we really wanted to do a show or something for the community to be able to attend, but also be safe and conscious of what's going on. And so we just kind of decided, all right, what if we, make it so that they can be contained? And so Paul then built this room so that they could be contained. And,
I remember when we were driving, sort of everything came together really quickly. I just said, I have an idea for a show and I've got a title for it and I've got a way to pull it off without there ever being any physical contact, or any the big thing we were worried about was breathing and respiratory contact.
Mm-hmm.
It all sort of just came together. And as soon as I brought those ideas out, then Reyna really sort of figured out the narrative of where it needed to go. Once we had our characters together, we knew where the narrative sort of had to go with it.
Yeah, and I'd been following my friend Jeannie, and I don't know if I'm jumping the gun too soon. I'd been following, I always say Jenny, on Facebook, and she's a friend that I went to high school with, and I had just been so moved by her story and her struggle and everything that she had been going through with COVID that I'm like, I have to, like, this, it just was really compelling. It just moved me and inspired me to tell her story as my character. And then, of course, as you know, Paul took on a different character in the show. And so that kind of, all right, what are we going to do in the box? So we're in the box. We have the safe space to perform. Now, what are we going to do? How are we going to make it compelling for the person on the other side without touching anybody, without them, touching anything else, without them really interacting with a bunch of characters? How do we pull that kind of story off? And so that's just kind of the foundation for how everything else was born out of that.
There we go. No, you definitely brought into the next segment right there, which was how hard was it for you guys to kind of develop your characters? As you were saying, it was from your friend from high school, and then Paul, for you, it was a whole different point. Would you like to kind of share a little bit more of how you developed your character a little bit?
Yeah, actually, the inspiration for it really came sort of at the last minute. Even I built the set. And we sort of had the idea. We knew that it was going to be based on the idea of a person who is infected with a thing. We never named the thing about what it is, and we knew that person was going to die, and that you would be, as the guest, spending the last hour of this person's life with them. And so the idea came that the client would be a minister, would be somebody who's been sent to give the last rites or take care of this person in the last time of their death. And once I made that connection, my father was a minister, and I've known a lot of ministers growing up, and I've listened to a lot of stories and been around a lot of people who have died. And as soon as I put all those things together, I realized, it would be interesting if I had the same job as the person on the other side of that glass had. But I was looking at it from the perspective of someone who had been doing it for years and years and was almost overwhelmed by it, versus whoever would be on that other side of the glass, where it would be more than likely something new for them. Although, I sort of left it, we always leave it up to interpretation for the client to bring as much as they want to into the role, that they create.
Oh, that's really good. That's a really good way of doing it. And saying that, like, your character was kind of based off of your own real experiences. Same with you too, Reyna. Was it hard to kind of share this with, because I know you would have some people as friends going through as guests, but I'm pretty sure you also had some strangers involved too as guests. Was it kind of hard to really share this sensitive topic about your own personal histories with strangers?
I think for me it was more like the emotional, like how the emotion affected me as a performer. You know, I think I always kind of say, even when I did My 90s Nightmare, that, you know, tormenting, like, you know, being physical with somebody for me is easier than showing a lot more emotion and having to, because I'm putting myself through that emotion too. So I think that was more of the difficultness of it. You know, I almost think it was easier to do it with somebody I didn't know versus the people that we had to come in. The other founders went through the show. We had another cast member come through the show before we aired it, just to see, like, hey, can this work? Does this work as a show? You know, and it was, I think more vulnerable for me to have somebody close to me, because then you know, we're naked. B, you know, to be that kind of intimate with somebody, even if they're your friend, and show that kind of vulnerability is harder versus, you know, having the person that is more of a stranger. But even then, having somebody that's a stranger, you know, you're not sure, are they going to be affected by this? Are they going to care even about what you're talking about or what you're saying? Are they just going to roll their eyes and think like, oh, this is just another sob story, and not be affected by it at all? And thankfully, that's not what happened. Like, everybody was affected by the show that came through. And so it was almost like a relief each time, you know, because you never saw the person after you did a show. Like, after I did a show, Paul got to walk them back, and it was, you know, almost the anticipation of, all right, what did they think? How did they react about the show? So, you know, there's kind of pros and cons to being close to someone versus having the person be a stranger. But yeah. I think it was definitely one of the most difficult shows emotionally, just because even though it's not my story, just thinking about living in her world for that 55 minutes, it's like she's still living, you know, through the you know, effects of being sick. She's still struggling. And so just like, I only lived that for a couple days. So I think I always had to remind myself, is like, this is not your life. This is somebody else's, and it's harder for them. And you're just telling a little sliver of their life.
Yeah. I think it's easier sometimes to be intimate with strangers in a way than it is to be with people who you know, because those other people have their preconceptions about you, or, you know, first, I found it also easier to open up to the clients that I didn't really know sometimes. And what was really cool is the way the show's structured. You know, it's all about the relationship that you establish with the person behind the glass.
Yeah.
You know, whatever they're bringing to it, you know, you're reacting off of that. And that's what drives the narrative. The narrative is driven by the relationship that you form with whoever that person is.
No, that is totally true. I can imagine that. It was both stories were heartwarming and very, like, you know, I'll admit I cried both times. You guys saw, you know what I mean? It was very sensitive stuff that you guys were sharing. That's why, you know, hats off to you guys, you know, for being able to do that and everything. And especially too, forgot to mention, you guys were both naked. That must have been, you know, I'm pretty sure it's immersive. I've noticed this is like kind of like a thing in immersive theater. Nudity that's like, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when it's going to happen. You know what I mean? You know, so being able to do that's you know, that's even more hats off to you. I wouldn't even take off my shirt in public. So, you know, you guys are brave as hell, you know, but that's awesome. So the next question is like, you know, given your guys' background with Black Massive, everything that you guys done in 2019, you guys were killing it back then. You guys are still killing it now. But doing this whole new thing of intimacy, did you find it kind of harder just working with just two people and that's it? Or was it a little bit easier? Like, you know, kind of like, you know, you guys already have a habit of like, all right, we got this group, we got this stuff, we can have all this free range, and then now, boom, we got to kind of reduce it down to, you know, so little, you know?
You definitely miss the, you know, group dynamic and the say that word.
Camaraderie.
That, you know, of everybody around us, and we miss our cast and crew a lot. But when we did Pathology, and it was just the two of us doing Pathology, and so I think it's just another flavor. You know, we had, you know, I think Alex calls it like we're was it buffet, a food court. He calls us a food court.
Food court, right?
You know, where we have the small shows where it is just one or two cast members that you're, you know, interacting with, all the way from you're dealing with all 20, you know, cast members and crew members. So I think that I think that we're able to kind of switch on and off between small cast, medium cast, big cast. And, you know, I think we miss the elements of having a big cast, but doing something small. I think if anything, the challenge was more not to being able to interact with the client, because without giving too much away about Pathology, is that you know, it is physical, and that's something that I think is harder, is to not be able to touch you or, you know, bind you up or, you know, do even little gags here and there right in your face. Without giving away more. That's what I would say.
Yeah, I agree. The challenge with this show was, I mean, there were so many challenges with the show. The first one was safety. You know, how do we create an environment where you're never going to be breathing the same air? How do you create an environment where you know, everything gets sanitized between production quickly and thoroughly? You know, then there are the narrative challenges. Okay, now working with those restrictions, you know, I mean, literally, you say we were naked. It was the most stripped down show that we sort of possibly could, because there were no effects. You know, we had a light bulb. You know, we had fog machine, and we had the black plastic that sort of enclosed everything. What was fun, I thought, was just using these little things that are traditional parts of haunts, like fog machines and lights and things like that, but using them in a way that maybe you haven't seen in a haunt before.
True. That is definitely true. It was a very unique way of setting things up, and it still had that Black Mass feel of like anything could still happen. Yeah, they said no one's gonna touch you, but you know, people say a lot of things. You know, I'm not just kidding, but
like, I still signed a waiver that said I could be. So.
Exactly. Oh man, that waiver. I feel like when like haunt started, like, you know, the whole beginning of that, bringing in waivers into stuff like that. That's what's really like the mind, like what scrambles the mind a lot, is just having to sign a legal document before you can go into something that's supposed to be entertaining. You know what I mean? And that's a genius move. Whoever started that. You know what I mean? You know, so again, you guys already explained a little bit about your history in immersive theater and everything like that. Let's talk about one thing I do like to ask people who've been doing this for a while. How was it the first time you got to like actually put hands on a guest? It sounds kind of like violent, but like, you know, the first time you had to like really get physical with the guest, you know?
Trying to think. So the first time I got to touch people in a haunt was the Great Horror Camp Out. And it was Justin Myers that was our creative director there. And I got to work. That's where I got to first work with Adrian Mercado. And he was the effects artist. And so I got to do a cool gag where, you know, I got to put my hands on a guest, you know, and it was more of a safe way. You know, you're moving them around and you can kind of like rough them up, but, you know, there wasn't like strangulation or anything like that. But that was my taste. And then I got to do, you know, an off camera effect where I'm like kicking an actor, you know, and making it look like I'm being really violent with them. And I think that's where I got the first little feel for being handsy with a guest, and that's where Adrian first got to see me work as like a tormentor, and that's where our worlds kind of collided. And then I started working with Heretic from there. And I'm trying to think of, and I guess it must have been Midnight Killer. The first show that you went through too, where I got to actually be physical with guests. That wasn't my first Heretic show. My first Heretic show was more, I got to kind of be this wandering kind of ghost spiritual kind of person, but I wasn't really handsy with them quite yet. But it's just, I don't know if it's more like an adrenaline rush, and also kind of the same feel that I get when I do wrestling, you know, where you get to be physical. And I always, you know, was kind of play fighting as a kid, and my brothers, you know, did wrestling moves on me growing up. They're much older than me. So I've always kind of been feisty and wanting to like fight with people and, you know, put them in headlocks and not really wanting to hurt anybody, you know, like I never wanted to do that. And so I think that was an interesting fine line where, okay, you know, I get to kind of do the play fighting that I like to do in a controlled way and scare people and, you know, be a haunter all at the same time. So I think that was more like part of an adrenaline rush for me, and then part of just doing what I've always been doing since I was a little kid. Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it was a very different story because I'd gone through Midnight Killer as a guest. So I was prepared, you know, sort of for what physically could be done to me. The first show where I got to be physical with someone was Rituals. And I basically spent a day training with Heretic's sort of hands-on person at the time, and he taught me how to, you know, move people in restraints, how to restrain people, how to move them forcefully, how to, you know, disable them, you know, how to cause a lot of pain without hurting them permanently. And then I was thrown into a situation where I was in charge of a group, and these were all like ex-military guys, and I had to dominate this entire group of guys. And, you know, I just sort of went with it and did it because that was my character. And, you know, it was either going to work or it wasn't going to work. And thankfully, you know, the training that he had given me was enough that I was able to do that. And, you know, just running through that show was a really big confidence booster in a way, because I'd never really, you know, been particularly a dominant personality or physical force before. And being able to do that was, just a whole new door. And after that, it was just, you know, torment.
There we go. That's really cool. I can imagine in the training, probably like a lot of like medical terms and stuff like that, you know, especially what you're saying, to cause pain, but without permanent damage. And like,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. I mean, well, you know, he would, what he would do is, you know, he would do it to me. And then, all right, now it's your turn. Do it to me. You know, here's how much force, you know, and be like, all right, give me more. Okay, less. You know, it was great because there was a lot of physical increments built into it. So I sort of knew how far I could push from the get-go. And I knew exactly what I was doing to every person because I had it done to me before. And I think it's really important. I think that we're big believers in that here at Black Mass, is we never do anything to anyone that we haven't done to ourselves first.
Yeah. Well, one of the four of us.
Or at least one of the four of us, yeah. But generally, I don't like to do anything to anyone that I haven't personally had done to myself in a safe way.
That's good.
Usually my guinea pig.
Yeah,
there we go. That's awesome right there. You know what I mean? You know, again, speaking of Black Mass and all that stuff, with the whole kind of halt of everything going on with the pandemic in 2020 is basically done for. We're already like in the middle of it, and it's going by even quicker than ever. Where do you see yourself as Black Mass, as a whole unit, for 2021? What are like some stuff you can say without giving too much away? You know, I know you guys like your secrets, underground society stuff, you know what I mean? So
I think right now it's a matter of figuring out logistically, since we had a roster of shows, right? We still had, we only went through 3 of the 12 holiday shows. So we still had, that means what, 9 left, like math, communications major, and finance. I should know money. So 9 more shows of the holiday sequence still, you know, we had ready to go. When we have Blindness still ready to go. We have part 3 ready to go. So we do already have a full roster of shows. We just need to know that we can do it safely. So I think the reorganization, what we're working on is, are there shows right now that we could modify to be a show that we could do safely? And if not, what new show can we make that we can still do in kind of a safe environment? Because, you know, all the other different haunts, you know, are having to close down, you know, and so it's a matter of figuring out, are we small enough and can we create an environment that is safe for people to come to right now. And if not, then as soon as things are safer and places can open up again, then it would be figuring out what shows are small cast, small crew, and then slowly kind of open it up to where we can be a big giant cast and crew again. And we do, in the meantime, are still talking to our cast and crew, doing some, safety training and things like that, and kind of other trainings to get them even, so that they can become better haunters and they can become better tormentors as well. Little things that we can do to kind of, performance workshops, so what can we do to make our cast stronger in the meantime while we're still trying to create content or reorganize content for 2021.
There we go. That's really good. I'm pretty sure everyone's excited to hear about that. This whole thing just really did. I'm pretty sure everyone thought that, like, all right, by now in July we should have been okay with it, and like a lot of haunts are still building stuff, as we saw like the drone pictures.
I knew that wasn't going to be the case. I knew in early March that this would be a game-changing event. I had to travel to Florida for my cousin's funeral. And we were just, beginning to start to hear things in the news about it. I was a little worried, so I brought a mask and gloves and things with me. I got to the airport, to go over there thinking, oh, okay, no big deal. And one of the China Airlines flights landed, and every single person who came off of that flight had masks and gloves. And I knew right then, okay, this is serious. So I kept myself masked and gloved as much as possible. I isolated myself while I was out there. I mean, if I wasn't with my family, my direct family, then I was in a hotel room by myself, staying isolated, because, I mean, I saw what would happen. I mean, everywhere around me, I just saw, we're not ready for this. We're not ready for this. Yeah. I knew that this would be a bad situation. And as soon as I came back, that was when I told everybody, hey, we need to start thinking about things shutting down for a long time. We were fortunate enough to get our last show in for Branding of the Lamb done before everything locked down.
And even then, that show was the end of that show turned into temperature checks, making sure. I mean, we didn't have people wearing masks at that point, but definitely temperature checks and hand sanitizer, right? Because we didn't know the extent of it, and of course, now it's even bigger.
Yeah. I was freaked out with the temperature check when you came approaching me at the meetup spot. I didn't know what you had in your hand. I thought you're like something was gonna hurt my head. I was like, they're just gonna start right off the bat. You know what I mean? With the pain. I was like, yo, why not? It was pretty crazy. Branding of the Lamb. That one's a really good show. All you guys coming together, and it was what was nice. It was a nice kind of a reminder of everything that happened in the M series, which you guys just came out with a documentary about that, right? The whole about M2 and the behind the scenes of everything that went going on. I'm pretty sure you guys have already, as you told me, you guys seen the footage already, but for those who don't know, how did you guys feel about the documentary's finalization?
Well,
you edited it, so.
I got to watch that over and over and over again because I did edit it. And so, I think it turned out the way that we wanted it to turn out, to kind of show people, here's, kind of a little bit of the process, kind of seeing Alex and how he directs shows, what his thought process was. Because at this point, he's ready for the world to hear, about everything that's gone on to get ready for part 3. And get everybody ready and geared up for that. And so I think that I think it's our longest film that we've put out. The Prelude interactive film is just a little snippet, a little interactive snippet. Part 2, even the little mini documentary is just a small little snippet. Inauguration was the full, run through of the show for like 22 minutes. And then finally, all right, let's actually put a whole almost hour show of part 2, and we had way more camera coverage of part 2 so that we could see everything, rehearsals, just Alex talking about it and Alex talking about his inspirations. I think it's really cool for the community to see a little bit more about what our shows are, you know, what we want out of the guest when they come through, for people to be more interactive, because we were so secretive, some people would come through shows and they're like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be talking, I don't know if I'm supposed to just do what I'm told, I don't know if I'm supposed to interact with people. And so, you know, it kind of took a little bit for some people to realize, like, hey, no, we want you to interact with our characters, we want you to be a part of the show. So yeah, I was really happy. I think all of us were really happy of how that documentary turned out. And there's been a lot of people asking for it, which is really cool. You know, we got more and more people that are following us and asking to buy that documentary, just because more interest is circulating. And so I think that's great, because, you know, even though we don't have big shows right now, I think that's the type of thing that are getting people ready for the future. And it gets all of us kind of like, it was a reminder to watch that film, was a reminder to, like, oh yeah, that's what we were doing. That's what we were, you know, the train was rolling, and it got us really, you know, happy to see the cast and crew again. We did a little premiere with the cast and crew through Zoom, so that they got to see it, all of us kind of together while we're being apart. And so there was a lot of good that came out of finishing that documentary. And the Lamb, Branding of the Lamb will be the next one that will be come out soon.
Yep. I really enjoy the way that we've taken sort of each film as like its own style. You know, the first one was a very mysterious sort of short, you know, that was sort of like a, I don't know, like a, almost like a workplace video for the organization. And, you know, every movie sort of takes on its own little life. And I was really happy with this one, first of all, because I didn't have to edit it.
Yeah, he edited the first couple.
Yeah, I did. I've done the bulk of the video work up to now. But, you know, I love seeing what you did with all that raw footage, and, you know, reliving the show again. And I remember we were excited about this, and, you know, it's fun to have a place where you can sort of not be mysterious. You know, the mystery is great. I love how mysterious we were in our first year of existence, but now that everybody sort of knows us, it's fun to sort of peel it back and let everybody in, because, you know, it's fun to see other people's creative processes.
And my favorite was still hearing Baker scream over and over and over again.
Oh man. Baker still scares me to this day. Like, you know, the day he put hands on my head and I felt like the catcher's mitts size hands, I was like, this dude can just squish me right now, man, like a pimple, and it would not even break. He would not break a sweat.
There are a few people who can make me feel tiny like Tim does.
Yeah.
For sure.
That's funny.
Oh man, that's crazy. And you guys really did, when I was first hearing about you guys, I was noticing your following, and then everyone else started, when I would talk about you guys amongst other like influencers, like the Haunt girl, Christine, and some other people, they were saying like, yeah, Black Mass, these guys crazy, like underground society stuff, you know. And it's like, so when you guys started releasing videos, I would also see too, everyone was jumping first to try to see those, and to, like, you know, just really wanted to know what was going on, because you guys did so well being secretive. You basically going to your event was like, who knows, maybe they're just messing with us the first time, and now they're going to kidnap us and harvest our organs.
Yeah. I mean, that to me, that was one of the more fun parts about the immersive scenes when they first started. You know, it's just like, you didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, when I went to Blackout for the first time, I didn't know anything about it other than like, I was going through by myself, and that it was going to be scary. That was literally all I knew about it, you know? And, you know, so I'm really glad we had that time to sort of give people that fun feeling of like, wow, what is this? This is new. Like, I don't know anything about this, you know, that makes me want to know more.
Yeah.
Do you guys feel that, like, now that a lot of people know you get kind of like the same crowds coming in to see every show, that they stop, like, I don't want to say they stop fearing you, because you guys are still scary when you're in character, but they almost look at you as celebrities now? It's like if you had, like, you know, who, like Matt Damon coming in. You know what I mean? They're gonna be like, oh my God, it's Baker. Oh my God, it's ChainsawQueen. Oh my God, like, you know, do you see that a little happening nowadays now that you guys have been really developing more?
I think what comes to mind is when we were doing Pathology on the Road and we were still secretive.
Yes.
You know, because that was one, well, I don't want to give it away. It was one, like I said before, we were a little bit more physical. And I think one of the coolest things when Paul was escorting them back to the drop-off spot was when a guest turned to him and was like, I think I knew who that was.
Yeah.
That was
ChainsawQueen, wasn't it? Yeah.
Oh, man.
I can tell me that. I had a little like, oh my God, you know, like that's really, you know, that was one of those moments, I think, where, you know, it was cool because they didn't know. And I still think, you know, we still kind of can have that effect because you never know who is going to be, you know, an actor in the show. We don't know which one of us is going to be tormenting or if we're just going to be behind the scenes at that show. You don't know, you know, what's going to happen.
That's sort of the nice part about having so many creators involved is that there's so many different roles that we can take on. And personally, like when I'm in character in a show, it doesn't matter to me, you know, sort of who the person I'm interacting with is. It's either, you know, they're either doing what my character wants or they're opposing me. And so I'm, you know, I don't know, when you're in the story, everything sort of falls away except for the story.
Okay. There we go. That's really good right there. And then we're kind of going back to what you guys were talking about earlier, that like, you know, you get the documentary shows that what you guys are looking for in a guest. And I'll admit, I made the same like assumptions too, like, oh, I should just stay quiet, do what I was told. You know, have you guys had experiences where a guest got too involved or anything? Because you always hear about that, like guests getting like a little too rowdy. You ever had to like, you know, without giving any names or anything too much away?
I think for the most part, our cast has been kind of trained to relegate when that happens. You know, someone gets a little too handsy, you know, I think that it's just the cue, hey, not right now, or no, stop that. We had a guest come in and we knew that they were going to have an issue with the taser. And so we already, knowing that, we kind of prepped somebody, one of our cast members, to just go over to her and say, it's not for you, you know, so that they knew like, okay, I don't have to be afraid of being tased in that scene. For example, I'm trying to, that was, I think what show, I think
that was part two.
It was part two. It was part two.
We've definitely had things that didn't go the way that we planned it to, but that's kind of the joy of immersive theater, is the fact that like these things don't always follow your directions. And so then the challenge becomes getting the narrative back on track, you know, or in a sense, creating a new narrative to fit this new thing that people have brought in.
Yeah. And like from Prelude even is when we discovered, you know, they're not always going to make the choice we want them to make. So that's where then choices started to come more and more into play. You're like, okay, we're going to present you with this choice. Oh, you don't want that? Okay, you're going to go that way. That's fine. But there's going to be a consequence for that choice later.
Definitely. No, I remember those ones. Yeah, that was, did not see that coming. That's amazing right there. Well, that's all the questions we have today for you guys. I want to thank y'all for sharing so much about what was going on and to really kind of like showing a little more insight of intimacy. I know everyone that went through enjoyed it, saw it as something almost as eye-openers and to really cherish life. I feel like that's what like the show was like something good for, you know, especially during these hard times. You guys are doing really, really good at still providing entertainment and as well as an escape of reality, you know. Is there anything that you can tell us that like anything to look out for the rest of the year besides the documentary? Maybe not without giving too much away, because again, I know you guys like your secrets. Anything like that?
Well, I think I mentioned it a little bit. I will just say that coming soon, our cast and crew will be 100 times more stronger and more performatively powerful than they have in the past.
There we go. That's really good. Really good. Exciting, scary. It's a little nerve-wracking, but it's all good. That's good. I'm glad to hear that. All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that has been it. I'm sorry, Paul, did you have anything you would want to input on that? I'm sorry. How rude of me.
No, not at all. I think that you summed that up really well. Yeah, we just want to keep moving things forward, and I think we're at the point now where, you know, when obstacles come our way, we find a way to go around those obstacles.
All right, that's good. That's really good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, this is Black Mass. These are two of the founders. More information on their Instagram. Please follow them. I feel honored to have you guys on here. And outside of character, with your friendly faces, I enjoy seeing you guys. It's nice. It's lovely. Without being in a dark room. I'm in one right now, but without being in your dark rooms, you know, not knowing what's going on. So thank you very much for taking the time. Thank you guys very much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.